making life difficult for the fellow Nigerian people, starting from the Northeast up until now we're having them in the Northwest, in the North Central. These are terrorists, no doubt. These are insurgents. These are those who are enemies of the state. And because they are enemies of the state, they needed to be dealt with so that the state, the nation state, can have some peace. Turkey has a lot of experience from what we know. Turkey fought an insurgency with the Kurdistan People's Party, the PKK. And we can say with all sense of modesty that the state of Turkey crushed the PKK, though we know their leader has asked that every other person fighting the Turkish state to lay down their arms. In fact, I did a research work along these lines and mentioned the PKK and its fight for what he calls freedom and all of that. So Turkey has a lot it can share with Nigeria, and that's why probably Nigerian state has gone in that direction. So we're looking at all of this on this particular webinar, as I will call it, put together by the Peace Building Development Consult. We'll be having two quality resource persons give us their perspectives on this webinar that we're having. I'll introduce them one after the other, and of course, they will take their turns to address us on what they have for us, the papers they'll be delivering. The first one is Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman. He's a member of the National Institute. That's the National Institute for Peace and Strategic Studies, NIPS. He's also a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, an institute where I belong to. He's a fellow of the African Public Relations Association. He's a fellow of the Nigerian Army Resource Council. He's also a fellow of the Security Professionals Group. He's a lead consultant now of the Corporate Affairs and Information Services at the Army Resource Center. He voluntarily retired from the Army on the rank of Brigadier General, having joined the Army and served for over almost 3 decades. Brigadier Usman, while in the Army, served in various units and formations, and he had 2 tours of duty with the United Nations peacekeeping operations. He's a prolific writer. He's a resourceful person. He's very friendly. He's very jovial. But when it comes to issue of security and strategic communications, he's very vast and he's very, very serious. He is a well-decorated retired senior officer, and he has held his own in so many areas in assignments while in the Army and out of uniform assigned to him in whatever he does. He is also the National Public Secretary of the Alumni Association of the National Institute. That's the National Institute for Peace and Strategic Studies, NIPS. He's married, and by the grace of God, he's blessed with children. General Usman, I welcome you to this discussion we're having this morning, sir.
Thank you so much, and good morning, sir.
Good morning. So General Usman will take the floor. Then after that, I'll be introducing our second resource person, who in his own right is very vast, quite deep, and knowledgeable. General Usman, you have the floor. You have exactly 40 minutes, sir. Thank you, sir.
I believe I will even finish before then. I would like to thank you most sincerely for those kind words. General Elo Adeoshun, Commander Order of the Federal Republic, our highly respected, seasoned senior military officer, a war commander in his own right, the executive director of the Peace Building Development Foundation, my very good friend, Mr. Kayode Bolaji, and of course, the ubiquitous moderator, Shola J. Shemi, who has abandoned me, distinguished policymakers, respected academics on these platforms, as well as colleagues from the civil society and development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I regard it as a very rare privilege to have the honor of addressing this distinguished virtual gathering under the auspices of the Peace Building Development Foundation's Peace and Security Online Discussion. And I must commend the Foundation for convening this timely and policy-oriented dialogue, not merely to analyze Nigeria's evolving security partnership, but to translate such analysis into practical recommendations capable of guiding government actions, informing public debate, and supporting sustainable peace in our country and beyond. Nigeria continues to face, complex and interlinked security challenges, which include terrorism, banditry, secessionist agitation, violent extremism, and transnational organized crimes, among others. And these threats place sustained pressure on national defense institutions, economic stability, peace, security, social cohesion, and national unity. And in response, and in addition to local initiative, the Nigerian state has increasingly turned to international security partnership as an instrument for enhancing capacity, improving operational effectiveness, and addressing capability gaps in the security architecture. The moderator has done well to outline some of this issue, and it is within this strategic context that Nigeria, Turkey counter-terrorism partnership must be examined, not as a diplomatic formality, but as a policy tool with far-reaching security, economic, and governance implications in this country. Now let's look at the strategic context and national security significance. The Nigeria-Turkey counter-terrorism partnership reflects a deliberate shift in Nigeria's security diplomacy towards diversification and pragmatism. Turkey's emergence is a significant global actor in defense technology, military training, and counter-terrorism operations lends strategic weights to this engagement. We are not even talking about the diplomatic aspect of it. And from Nigeria's perspective, the partnership offers opportunities to strengthen operational capability, as you have mentioned about drones and all other things, access to advanced military platforms, and benefit from Turkey's experience managing asymmetric threats, the Kurdists and all the rest of them. So it is important to note that the strategic value of such partnership is determined not solely by their existence, but by how effectively they are integrated into our broader national security architecture. Security cooperation must therefore enhance national capability, preserve strategic autonomy, and align with clearly articulated national policy objectives and our sovereignty, as the case may be. And when viewed from this lens or through this lens, Nigeria-Turkey partnership presents both opportunities and responsibilities for Nigerian policymakers and security institutions. So when we look at defense capability, or rather capacity building, intelligence cooperation, now a core dimension of the partnership lies in the defense capacity building and intelligence cooperations. Contemporary counter-terrorism operations are increasingly intelligence-driven, technology-enabled, and adaptive. So Turkey's military-industrial complex and operational experience, particularly in surveillance system, unmanned platforms, and intelligence fusion, offers Nigeria valuable lessons and opportunities that can enhance situational awareness and operational precision. This much has been confirmed by the DICON itself and the National Counter-Terrorism Center. Yet, capacity building must extend beyond hardware acquisition. Sustainable security outcomes depend on human capital development, doctrinal adaptation, and institutional learning and interagency coordination. Nigeria's engagement with Turkey should therefore prioritize structured training, joint exercises, and knowledge transfer mechanisms that strengthen indigenous capabilities and reduce long-term dependency. I have the Ajakuta steel rolling mill in mind, and of course, Defense Industries Corporation. And such an approach ensures that intelligence cooperation enhances Nigeria's self-reliance while improving operational effectiveness. So it's no question of buying things. I think there should be kind of transfer of knowledge and partnership to enhance our capability and self-reliance. Now, let's look at also the issue of defense industrial development and the economic linkages of this partnership. So beyond the immediate security gain, the partnership carries significant economic implications or opportunities, particularly in the area of defense industrial development. Modern defense cooperation increasingly intersects with industrial policy, technology transfer, and economic diversification. And for this country, the opportunity to develop local defense production and maintenance capabilities is strategically important for both national security and economic resilience. The starting point actually is that we have skilled manpower or human resources. I could remember the issue of a technical college in Jos, that most of the locally fabricated weapons were done by the product of that school. So if there is this partnership and DICON can harness it, I think we can go a long way in that, in terms of employment opportunities and enhancing our drive for military industrial complex. So, and if properly managed or prudently, this partnership can simulate or rather stimulate local industry, create skilled employment, just like I said, and reduce foreign exchange exposure. You know the exchange rate between Naira to dollar as it is, and strengthen Nigeria's technological base. Defense spending, when aligned with industrial development strategies, can generate positive spillover effects across the broader economy of this country. However, achieving these outcomes require deliberate policy choices, clear local content provisions, and effective coordination between defense institutions and the economic planners. I'm saying so because in most cases, we operate in silos. And I believe General Adeosun will bear me witness to the issue of peacekeeping operation. Nigeria had been, at a certain point in time, the fourth largest troop contribution to UN peacekeeping operations, which is money-spinning venture in the sense that an APC earned as much as $10,000 per month for this country. And I remember at the height of the crisis in the Darfur, we have about 40 to almost 50 APCs in that country alone. I'm not talking about Sierra Leone and Liberia. I'm just talking about that. But what is the connection between the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course the business community in that respect? So now let's look at the issue of governance, oversight, and public trust. Security partnership of any nature cannot be divorced from governance considerations. Therefore, transparency, accountability, and civilian oversight are essential to sustaining public trust and legitimacy of such partnership. Counter-terrorism cooperation, by its nature, involves sensitive operations and significant public resources, making strong governance framework indispensable. At this point, most of our institutions are very weak. So public confidence in such partnership is shaped not only by operational success, but also by adherence to democratic norms, respect for human rights, and accountability in the procurement and the deployment process of whatever nature of the partnership entails. So, in this regard, civil society organizations, the media, academic institutions play an important role in fostering informed debate and constructive oversight. And I'm so happy with this kind of opportunity. Their engagement strengthens rather than undermines the credibility and effectiveness of such security cooperation. So, in the light of the foregoing, I would like to recommend the following policy-oriented recommendations. A. Nigeria's security partnership should prioritize long-term capacity building, skills transfer, and institutional learning over short-term equipment acquisition. B. Defense cooperation agreements should be deliberately aligned with national industrial and economic development policies to maximize local value addition and employment opportunities. C. There should be clear frameworks for transparency, legislative oversight, and accountability to govern all counter-terrorism partnerships to sustain public trust and legitimacy. Then D, Nigeria's defense industrial cooperation, other research development and manufacturing capabilities should be supported through targeted investment and collaborations and international partner. Beyond the DACON, I'm thinking of Ajakuta and of course entities like PRODA in Enugu. And lastly, there should be continuous dialogue among government, civil society, the academia, and development partners who should be institutionalized to ensure inclusive and sustainable security outcomes. And I would like to conclude by saying that Nigeria or the Nigeria-Turkey counter-terrorism partnership should be understood as a strategic policy instrument whose effectiveness will depend on foresight, institutional discipline, and alignment with Nigeria's long-term security and development objectives. And when anchored in sound governance, indigenous capacity development, and inclusive engagement, such partnership can significantly enhance counterterrorism effectiveness while contributing to economic stability and national resilience. So the issue of politicization should not come into play. And I must commend Peace Building Development Foundation for providing such a wonderful platform that brings strategic analysis, and actionable policy dialogue. I'm confident that the deliberation will generate insight capable of informing decision-making and strengthening Nigeria's security architecture in an increasingly complex global environment. I thank you most sincerely for listening to me.
Thank you very much, General S.K. Usman. I sincerely appreciate. When General Usman told me that, Shola, I will not be needing 40 minutes, I said yes, that and when someone is deep in communication, they can articulate their thoughts in even half that time. And Prof has been able to, rather General, I'm sure he'll be a Prof very soon, has been able to do that for us in exactly 14, 15 minutes. General, I want to thank you so much for your paper. Now, what are the key areas of General's paper that have come to the fore? General has told us in this paper, which he has delivered, strategic, security, and defense implications of the Nigeria-Turkey counterterrorism partnership. He has highlighted for us, for all of us who have joined this discussion, that Nigeria has done well by reaching out and trying to ensure that the challenges it faces with regards to security and counterterrorism, and that there's a need to deliberately diversify and shift. General has said that is what has been done. General has also said that the National Counterterrorism Center and the strategy with which Nigeria is using that document has been reviewed recently. That if there's structured training, that if there are joint exercises, that if there is knowledge sharing and intelligence fusion and cooperation, that everything will go well. That it doesn't just center on purchase of equipment and hardware and all of that. General has also told us in his paper, which he has delivered in just under 15 minutes, that there is a need for Nigeria in its partnership, which it has signed with Turkey, to ensure that issues of institutional cooperation within Nigeria first, before we go outside, is deepened. That each of the services, be this military or intelligence services, that there's a lot that they can do and should do together to be able to achieve the desired goals. That Nigeria has the skilled manpower, but that collaboration to ensure all this skilled manpower is brought to the fore to be able to tackle Nigeria's security challenges is the key thing. And for those of us who joined up when he was about, tidying up the area of recommendations, he listed them out for us. He said that there's need to instill public confidence as well. And that's where those in authority need to ensure that they engage civil society and the media to be able to push forward what the security establishments are doing. So his recommendations include, number one, Nigeria Security Partnership should prioritize long-term capacity building, skills transfer, and institutional learning. That defense cooperation agreement should be deliberately aligned, and that there should be a clear frameworks for transparency, legislative oversight, and accountability that is needed to govern all areas of counterterrorism partnership so that public trust can be sustained, and that the Defense Insurance Corporation, the DIC, should be given all the support it deserves, as well as other research institutions, to be able to deliver for Nigeria. So that's the summary of General S.K. Usman's paper, which he has shared with us this morning. And on behalf of everybody who is listening, we would like to thank you so much, General. At this point, I'm going to open the floor for contributions, questions, and comments on General S.K. Usman's paper. So please, if you are, you listened in, I would like you to indicate that you want to ask a question. You get into the chat box and just indicate by raise of hand that you want to share one or two things with us, or you have a reaction to General S.K. Usman's paper. So please just get in the chat box and do that so that we can take various perspectives or contributions or comments that we have. Thank you. You can get in the chat box, or you can just get us online by, unmuting and making a comment. You introduce yourself, you tell us what sphere you're operating in, and you make your comment. Thank you. So any contributions? A very rich paper delivered, as briefly as concise as I would say someone who is deep and expressed in communications can do. Comments, contributions? I'm not seeing any indication in the chat room. Yeah, the floor is open. Ladies and gentlemen. We will distribute General's paper after the program, the seminar. So don't worry, you will get it. But if you listen, then we would like to and love to hear from you. Drop a message and we'll open the floor. Just indicate by raising your hand in the chat room. Okay, so maybe we'll just continue so that we can get the best of it. We'll probably take more comment the program. So what we're going to do next is to introduce our second speaker for today.
Sir, sorry, before you do that, I already told Coyote, WISA and Beacon Consult actually wants me to join. I have another presentation by 11 o'clock. No, Muhammad is already raising his hand. So you will excuse me to leave. Actually, I told him I have only 30 minutes because they expect me to log in 30 minutes before the time. But however, I think somebody is raising hand. So at a certain point in time, particularly for General Adeosun, kindly forgive me if you don't see me. I am into another, presentation. Thank you so much.
Chairman?
Oh.
I don't want General to live freely like this. My name is Mohammed Babandede. I'm the former Controller General of Migration Service and the Chairman of Peace Building Development Consult. I thank General for a very good presentation. But you know, the biggest problem we have in this country, who will do the job? We have gone to Turkey. Let's say even we implement your recommendation to make sure all our purchases, because it looks like government is a business institution. We do the purchases. We link the purchases to training, to unity, to human development. Tomorrow somebody will come and change it and go to another country. Let him not mention another country. And then start the same process again. So Nigeria will continue to lose. Can you help and recommend a strategic approach to military engagement, especially this kind of partnership, so that it is sustained, it is kept even after a certain regime has left? Otherwise, it will be a repetition every day. Thank you.
Do I go ahead, or moderator?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I think I'm not running away from responsibility, and thank you so much, Babandede, sir. In fact, Kayode has put me in trouble because I'm supposed to be getting in touch across, because of the endowment of BUK Alumni Association. So I will get back to you in that regard. I think you are quite right about issue of consistently being inconsistent when it comes to policy or policy somersault in this country. And so there is need, but I know, and I'm so sure General Adeosun will address this issue far better than I do. But along with the diplomatic relationship, each of the high commission or embassy, Nigerian, there is always a defense advisor, and they are doing very well. And I won't be surprised if they are not instrumental to it, given the person who is the defense advisor. So they know. And I was privileged also to talk to some of these people in the counter-terrorism, in fact, the coordinator and the DG DICON. They raised this concern because sometimes you have the very best of intention, but those at the policy level, they cannot sustain that. So part of it, I think the civil society and of course this forum of this nature will come up with a framework that such engagement should ensure. I talked about coordination, but I think there should be collaboration and sustenance of this collaboration and coordination among the components. Because this is not just the Minister of Defense or Office of the National Security Advisor or Foreign Affairs Ministry. There are other, ministries, departments, and agencies that have a role to play that really need to be constructively engaged in that regard. So you are quite right, sir.
Okay, General Usman, thank you so much, sir, for your response to former CGI Muhammad Babandede's inquiry on policy continuity. And that's a key area with regards to this country where they say government come, government go, but barracks doesn't remain. So policies
Nigeria
are changed.
remains.
Yes, Nigeria remains. Thank you so much, General. Is there any other question, comments, contribution before we go to the next paper by another solid resource person? Any other one?
Hello, Shola.
You're welcome, sir. We can only see the top of your head, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Adjust your camera, sir.
Okay.
Okay, you're better now, sir. Yes, go on, sir.
It is very network challenged.
You have the floor, sir. Yeah, you have the floor, sir. Go on. Okay, we seem to be having a challenge with the connection from the contributor. So maybe we'll marry it with what your comments. We'll marry it with what we'll do after the second paper. Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'm going to introduce now our second guest speaker. Our second guest speaker is a professor of international relations and strategic studies and China-Africa studies. He currently serves as the director of studies at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, where I'm privileged to be a member. He's a well-read academic and researcher, having earned degrees from the University of Calabar, the University of Jos, and the Jilin University in China. He's been with the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs for a couple of years now, where he also briefly served for 2 lovely months as the acting director general. He is a visiting fellow at several universities, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. In fact, he's also the first academic board member of the Collaboration Innovative Center, the Ministry of Education in the People's Republic of China. He has also been a visiting professor and lecturer, as well as guest lecturer at the National Defense College, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, Kuru Jos, as well as the Nigerian Institute for Security Studies, Buhari. He is widely published, different books, different journals, which have been peer-reviewed, and he has also earned various awards in various fields with regards to the nature of his work, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. He's a member of many international professional bodies, which include the Nigerian Political Science Association. He's a member of the Chinese in Africans in China Research Network. He's a member of the alumni of the U.S. State Department, that's the International Visitors Program. He's also a member of the U.S. Exchange Alumni Association, as well as the Nigerian Society for International Law. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants of this forum, I introduce to us distinguished Professor F.M. Ubi. Prof, thank you so much, sir, for joining us to give a paper at this auspicious event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, my very good friend and brother, Shola. And let me also thank Peace Building and Development Network for this auspicious meeting to look at current issues. I think I must say you're doing the right thing by helping to educate the general public, which include all of us here. And I pray that this continues to long, so we'll keep touching on current issues and events that occur and that has implications for Nigeria and the greater Africa and the world generally. I'm glad to be here. And let me also welcome all the repeatable generals and distinguished personalities here. When I was asked to come talk on this, and I was wondering because I've not just been steady, I've been in and out, for the last couple of weeks. I just came back over this weekend. And in fact, I had to rush back because I needed to be part of this meeting. So I was asked by my very good friend, in fact, he's a brother, Kayode, that I should talk on the broader political, economic, and governance implication of the Nigerian-Turkey pact. And so I thank the last speaker for also looking at the security aspect of it. But as a teacher and as a research fellow, I want to first of all, ask us this question: that what is actually a pact? A pact is a formal agreement or promise, often between people, group, or nations, signifying a commitment to a common goal. It's a solemn agreement, covenant, or treaty emphasizing shared understanding and commitment. Now, I also wanted us to understand, because you cannot understand all the agreements signed, but without understanding why nations agree to sign pacts or convention. Parties form agreement primarily to strengthen relationship, protect mutual interest, and manage interactions in an anarchic society, international society. These formal pacts enable nations to clearly outline their commitment, reduce uncertainty, and improve cooperation. On transnational issues or cross-boundary issues. But importantly, sometimes you begin to think, is it only strong powers that sign? Please, there is some noise coming from the system. So please, can we mute our mics? Can we mute our mics? Dr. Mustafa, good morning. So why do countries sign pacts, especially weaker countries? They sign pacts with stronger countries primarily to secure their survival, gain economic advantage, and enhance their security in the volatile international system. Now that we understand why countries sign pacts, oh my God, I can't concentrate with this noise. Can the host mute?
General, Dr. Mustafa Gobi, sir, can you? Oh yeah, you've muted. Prof, you can continue now. Apologies.
There's another person unknown. There's another unknown person.
So
okay,
this
so
became the most dangerous person in the room.
Can we all mute so that the guest lecturer can deliver the paper? Thank you very much. Check your devices and put it on mute.
Wasting time on social media, I spend 15 minutes a day actually learning how to use AI for.
I'll try. So now, in looking at the political and governance implication for Nigeria, I first of all had to look at, Turkey's economy. Let's look at what the position Turkey holds globally. Turkey has about 87.6 million population. Some data will say 85 million. Turkey is estimated to be within 18 largest economy in the world by nominal GDP. The GDP growth rate in 2025 was 3.5%, which is from IMF data. Its GDP is approximately 1.57 trillion, 11th in the world by purchasing power parity, 5th largest economy in Europe. Life expectancy at birth is 78.5 years. It is a member of the OECD and the G20 and an important donor of official development assistance. Now, which is a little bit sad, but they are working on it, that 12 million Turks live in extreme poverty. That is from their Ministry of Family and Social Services. Now, let's look at Nigeria that has gone to sign a pact with Turkey, this strategic partnership. Now, what is Nigeria's economy? At least we all know, we are all seeing it day by day. Nigeria's population is about 237.5 million. That is, I'm using IMF data. Nigeria global ranking is 52nd. Nigeria is the fourth largest economy in Africa by nominal GDP. Our GDP is about 285 billion, projected to 334 billion, 334 billion in 2026, by the end of 2026. Again, when you look at our real GDP growth for 2025 is 3.9. Now, but there's also prospects that by the end of this year, it will get to 4.4. Aside that, Nigeria's poverty level recently hit 61%, as 139 million people live in poverty. And so I would like to say that the visit of the president is not far from our reality, which is the fact that we need to create more partnership with countries that are economically buoyant, countries that are able to add value, to Nigeria in international in the international system. So you have to create relationship, alliances with these countries. Now, I will list out the 9 key pacts signed by the president during his visit to Turkey. 1, agreement on defense and on defense cooperation, which General has talked about. Joint declaration establishing the Economy and Trade Joint Committee. Agreement in the field of halal quality infrastructure. Energy and mining development. Cooperation in the field of media and communication. Cooperation between the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Diplomacy Academy, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Service Academy. There's also another signed cooperation in the field of higher education. There is another one on the 8th one, cooperation in the field of diaspora policy. And the final one is cooperation between the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Social Services, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ministry of Women and Social Development. These were all the 9 key pacts that was signed. Now, the whole essence, if you look at it in summary, this pact includes strengthening strategic partnership across security, trade, education, and aiming for a 5 billion annual trade volume. Now, what is our trade relationship with Turkey? Our trade relationship with Turkey is that Turkey exports finished goods, and which has been mentioned too by the last speaker: planes, helicopters, machinery, iron and steel, and chemical products. But what do we export to Turkey? Crude oil and agricultural products. In that sense, our trade volume will be very low. And more importantly, there's also going to be disparity. You see, when you don't export manufactured goods, you don't have, you are not industrialized. What you end up being at the receiving end. So all the finished goods will always come back to you. Now, but nevertheless, the trade volume between the two countries, which is about 2 million, is prospected to grow to 5 billion with this new pact that has been signed in the near future. But now, how are we going to get to that point? Every time we talk about trade, international trade or international economic relations, there are so much, you talk about prospects. But you see, these prospects cannot be achieved if you're not implementing whatever outcome of an agreement that you have signed, in practical sense. For instance, I also want us to look at the political economic implication. What are the gains for Nigerian economy? Now, I look at various aspects of it, and I said, first, the pact, is supposed to have a sustained, multifaceted impact on Nigeria's economy. One, we have the target of 5 billion trade volume in the nearest future. And so our trade volume will increase. Aside that, there will be a robust economic relationship between Turkey and Nigeria, which is at this moment not very big. Now, It will also help to establish, it has also helped to establish the Joint Economy and Trade Committee, which will also expand to help us expand that trade and realize that target of 5 billion. Now, again, it will create employment if it is well harnessed and implemented properly. It will also boost the energy sector because they also come into the energy sector. If you look at one of the trades is that the Turkish petroleum, is it petrochemical company or whatever, I think their national petroleum company, they also signed an agreement with the Nigerian petroleum company here. And I think there's some form of arrangement or agreement that's being put in place to help us expand our energy sector. Now, the fifth point I raised is that joint effort in tackling security, which has been thoroughly discussed by General, through the purchase of Turkish defense equipment, military training, and intelligence support. Now, again, another vital aspect of the implication of this visit by the president is that it will revitalize our agricultural sector. So the 2 billion MOU was signed by Turkey's Directi Group for soybeans production in Niger State. The partnership will enhance local food production, create jobs, and improve farming efficiency through investment in greenhouses and poultry and irrigation. Importantly, see what we should hold key is this greenhouse investment. Because when you go to especially the countries in Asia, you find a lot of greenhouses. You don't see the conventional farm we have here. And many of these greenhouses are, through cooperative endeavors, not subsistence farming. I think this is something we also have to imbibe and learn, if we have to enhance our food production as well as food security. Now, again, it will boost Nigeria's industrialization and manufacturing. I know some will be arguing, how can this park sign or part of the park that is signed boost Nigerian industrialization and manufacturing? You see, because here, Turkey is offering expertise in industrial sectors such as construction, steel, and textile, which is anticipated to aid Nigeria's industrialization effort. Well, like I said, it is one thing to sign an agreement, it's another thing to implement this agreement and follow through. Now, part of my discussion was to also look at governance impact. Now, this new strategic partnership is in line with the ongoing events in the international system and the quest for global governance in line with the developing world's collectivization quest for a new global order. Now, what is collectivization? So if you look at what Nigeria is doing much recently, aside the fact that this is the propagation of economic diplomacy, is the fact that the future is collectivization, where groupings of developing nations will come together to form a power, economic power. So, for instance, BRIC is collectivization. The G77 is an aspect of collectivization. The non-aligned movement, these are all collectivization. A much recent concept in international economics that we came up with. So what this whole thing is about, you see, the future of the globe is not going to be one single country primacy. It is going to be the dispersion of power, what I call dispersed hegemonism or polyhegemonism, in the sense that many groupings of nations will come together and form the power, economic, military, and cultural in different ways. Now, internally, there are a lot of lessons we can learn from countries like Turkey about their governance system and its impact on economic growth and development. Now these lessons is something that we have to adopt and adapt. From the last speaker, he talked about inclusivity, he talked about ownership. You cannot adopt and adapt sine qua non. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. Without, in order not to destroy your society. So what we look at is take what is good, what is visible, what can easily fit your society and adapt it. The lesson here is that governance is not a one-size-fits-all. Now, I just came back from Singapore 2 weeks ago. Now, what I learned there is, is something worthwhile. In fact, they were telling me, what they said. I'm not saying that democracy is bad, but during because it was a study tour, economic study tour, they said we don't practice democracy. That's what the study guide was telling all the participants that went there with us. They don't practice democracy, they practice their own system of government. And the same thing, if you look at many Asian tigers, they all practice different kinds of system. Even if you look at the Middle East, they practice their own system. You see, I think it is important that African countries, and especially Nigeria, which is one of Africa's greatest power, to look at a system that properly befits it, that could impact value to the society. We don't have to adopt every system, governance system. We copy. And try to apply hook, line, and sinker. I think there's something that we should. This is something that we should be able to do. Look at areas and look at a system that befits us. In fact, what I say often is that we have to, look at the structural dynamics of the Nigerian society. In whatever thing you're doing. So you don't just come and implement um, a system that might not actually go well for the society. And in conclusion, I ended up by saying that there's no saying that from all indication, the agreement aimed to diversify Nigeria's economy, of course, beyond oil. And we truly need to diversify our economy. We cannot purely depend on oil and natural resources. We need to industrialize. Two things that builds a nation, it is trade and industrialization. In fact, let me also say technology, because you cannot separate industrialization from technology. Nigeria must begin to think of being a manufacturing economy. Because if we don't move to that point, we will never move away from the level we are now, the underdeveloped nature of the country. We have to move beyond low-income country to middle-income country to high-income country. This is where we should be prospecting for. Now, importantly, it is one thing to sign a pact or agreement, which I've said before, but another thing to follow through to practical engagement. You see, it's not just for the president and all the entourage that went with him who signed different pacts, and come back happy. But that pact that I have signed must add value. There must be investment, in the country from that meeting. And finally, we have to move away from the challenges of the three C's. And what do I call the three C's? The challenges of the three C's. The challenges of the three C's are lack of consistency, absence of continuity, and lack of commitment. You see, if Nigeria is to move forward, we need commitment, we need continuity in government, and we need consistency. Well, I appreciate the last administration and even the present, because there has been a follow through, especially with regards to the infrastructural development. There has been continuity, there has been consistency, and there has been commitment. On that note, I am glad that the president went. Our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been a very good marketer of Nigeria wherever he has gone to, and I'm glad that many of these feats that he has achieved has also been attracting foreign direct investment in the country, because if you look at data from World Bank and IMF, it shows that we are growing. And in the next, by the end of this year, we are moving from 3.9 to 4.4 GDP, and we're also moving from that 285 GDP range to about 334, which I have listed before. And on that note, I say thank you all for your attention, and thank you, the moderator, and the PBC for this opportunity to be part of this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ubi, for your paper. And I'm sure you will be privileged to have a copy of your paper so that those who joined in will be able to digest more of it. It's been very scholarly put together. Prof has told us, taking off from where the first speaker, General S.K. Usman, stopped, Professor Ubi has gone into the various histories of Nigeria and Turkey, the relationship we have. He has also touched on the fact that Turkey is also a big country. Turkey has made lots of tremendous progress, he says, and that that country is a country that Nigeria indeed needs to partner with and is partnering with. He has highlighted in his paper that there's need for more partnership by Nigeria with some countries such as this, a giant in the Middle East, which straddles Europe. That's where Turkey is geographically, placed. And he also spoke about the fact that our population size is, Turkey is about a third of Nigeria's current population estimates, 86, 87 billion to Nigeria's 220, 225. And Professor FM has also gone into the nitty-gritty of the various areas of the agreement signed. 9, he mentioned. And it touches on all aspects. So far, so good. Security, counterterrorism. He also spoke of one that concerns my constituency, media and communications. It's part of what Nigeria signed. I would love to know what the details of that are so that some of us who are in this sphere, who are branching into international relations as newspaper editors, we can also get some from it. So Professor Ubi has also told us that it's good to sign partnerships, just like SK Usman General also said, but that implementation is the key thing. That if partnerships are signed, how will they foster? How will they proceed upon them? President Obasanjo, President Tinubu has maximum of 2 terms to follow through on any policy thrust he puts through. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for those who know him, he's been there since about 2000 and 2003, first as prime minister and later as president of the country, having pushed change the constitution through a referendum for him to now be there. And is that what happens if Erdogan leaves the seat of power, if his party loses the election? Will another party come with his own policy and change different agreements? That's an aspect Professor Ubi has brought to the fore. And he shared with us that he just came back from a trip and from one of the countries with the highest per capita in the world, Singapore, that those who he spoke to, a tour guide and others, say that they are practicing what suits them as a nation. And Professor Ubi has said, being a political scientist, that Nigeria needs to adopt a system that will favor it, irrespective of whatever agreements or partnerships we sign, so that there can be real investment pacts that we can follow through upon and can yield maximum benefit for the Nigerian nation in whatever sphere. That implementation is key. That's what Professor Ubi has emphasized. There's a need to implement. And that there are 3 things that he called them the 3 C's. I learned a new one today again. That there must be consistency, there must be continuity, and that there must be commitment for those who are involved in implementing policies and partnerships. He said, in conclusion, that if this is not done, then whatever agreement is signed in whatever area, that they might amount to nothing. But he also prayed and said, look, consistency, continuity, and commitment can be achieved if there's sincerity of purpose. So, Prof, I would like to sincerely thank you very much for your paper. You also did yours in 20 minutes. I was trying to brag to say that I thought it's only those who are communicators, but I know that academics are also superb communicators. So thank you so much. You used half of the allotted time to deliver your paper. Well researched, very succinct, straight to the point. And I can tell you that by the time we share this, your paper, not a few will be willing to join us again when we have your name as somebody to speak to us as a resource person. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. We sincerely appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Yes. So this is about time we open the floor for questions, comments, and contributions. Questions, comments, contributions on Professor Ubi's paper. And if you also want to give a comment to what General SK Usman had shared with us before, please, the floor is open for us to do so. Our program is a 2-hour duration, so we have lots of ample time. I know time is of the essence. It's a scarce commodity, but we can take more questions. We can take contributions. We can take an observation or a divergent viewpoint on the 2 papers presented thus far. So the floor is open. I will get off now. You indicate by getting to the chat box to raise your hand. We see you, we call you. And if we don't see you and you have a comment to make, I'm going to mute myself. You have the floor. Introduce yourself. Tell us the sphere in which you operate, and you can throw your questions. Thank you very much. So any questions? I'm in the chat group. I'm not seeing any hand raised at the moment. Let me check again. No hand here of the 35 participants. I might be privileged to just ask some of our renowned personalities who are with us on the program to maybe join in and give us their words of knowledge based on the papers and that have been delivered this morning by our two guests, General S.K. Usman and Professor F.M. Ubi. It might be a privilege to do that. So any comments, question?
Sure, sir. I can see one hand raised. Kingsley raised his hand.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to get that hand. But if that hand is up, please just introduce yourself and ask your question, sir or ma. Okay, yes, Kingsley. Thank you, Mr. Kingsley. You can ask your question, sir. Yeah, Mr. Kingsley. So you can ask your question. Okay, as we await Mr. Kingsley, whose hand is up, I think there's a little slight connection problem from his end. May I be privileged? Like I said a couple of seconds ago, we have some of our elders amongst us whose words of knowledge will be of tremendous blessing to us if we hear them. I have the singular honor to ask our brother. Okay, yeah, Kingsley, you have the floor, sir.
All right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank the two speakers, and I said I have a question, which is, what exactly is Nigeria's foreign policy regards security? Is there a roadmap that we can say, this is the plan for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and those roadmap will have ingredients and things that will be achieved? Because as we speak, we know Israel has been on ground in Nigeria over the years. We know the Americans are on ground right now in Nigeria. Our president just left Turkey. The Chinese are also on ground. Beyond economics, economic interests and all that, what exactly is our roadmap? Because except the Ministry of Defense, the Office of the NSA, and perhaps the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, come together and say, this is our roadmap. This is what we want to achieve in the next 5 years, and then we can stick to it. I think meeting Turkey, meetings, and there are too many interest groups in Nigerian security at the moment. I think we are being exposed rather than being strengthened. So I'm just saying, if there's no roadmap, if there is, we should know. But if there's none, I think we should start from there. Let's know exactly what Nigeria wants to achieve, and then that will then define whether we are going to Germany, London, France, Tokyo, whatever. Thanks for this program, quite a laudable one, and thanks to the two speakers. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley, for your comments. If you look at the theme of our topic for today, it was zeroed specifically to the outcome of the partnership signed between Nigeria and Turkey. And it zeroed deeply again into the security aspect. So your question is quite broad, and I'm sure maybe a series of fora that we put together may be able to answer that. Interestingly, we don't have a representative of the Foreign Affairs Ministry on the platform, but I don't know whether Professor F.M. Ubi would like to speak to that question. He's versed in international relations, and he may be able to have a perspective to this your poser on. It seems we are all over the place. So it seems like you have just said the Americans just met up with President Tinubu at the villa just over the weekend to try and talk about AFRICOM and how they can help us and all. And I recall that sometime in 2002, a former chief of army staff, had an interview, having been removed from office about a year earlier, saying the reason he was removed was because he refused to agree to his commander-in-chief's request that Nigeria allow the Americans have a foothold in Nigeria, making Nigeria the headquarters of the Africa. I'm talking about General SLV Malu. So that's what he said. And one of another general who must have also related with General Malu, probably when he was a young officer, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel or so, is also here with us today. So maybe our father and friend, General Josh, will be able to give some perspective to that area. So Professor Ubi, please, can you profess some answers to the question raised by Mr. Kingsley, if you're there, sir? Thank you.
I'm here. First, I want to say we actually have a foreign policy. And we should give, at least, irrespective of all the criticism levied against this government, we should give credit to this government that from the start, they came up with a foreign policy trust or doctrine, which we are following. The 4Ds that is all over. Diaspora development, democracy, and I remember the next year I will let you know. That's our foreign policy. Anyway, so in terms of a roadmap for security, we also have, I think we have a roadmap. We have the National Security Strategy that was developed some time ago under the National Office of National Security Advisor. We also have the Cyber Security Strategy. Like I said at the initial stage, the problem is not about having the whole of these documents. These documents are like the roadmap, but it is the implementation that's the challenge. I think we have to follow through. You cannot produce a document that you don't follow, you don't work with, And with regards to your focus by saying everybody is here, of course, everybody will be here. I remember when I was doing an interview on Arise TV, and they told me the Russians are here, China is here, Turkey, the Gulf states, they are all here. Of course. You see, like the Bible says, in its place, let another take. When this Sahelian state drove away France, asked them to leave, asked the Americans to leave, of course, other partners will want to come, which is normal in international relations or international politics. These ones will have to come. But I think the problem and the challenge we have as a country and the challenge Africa has is being able to engage these people, this country. Now, there's a big problem. That is the one we should be talking about. What are our strategy of engagement? What are our policies of engagement? For instance, in the US, they have US-Africa policy, which AFRICOM is also part of. Now, Russia, they have the Russian Federation Africa's policy. The same thing with UK Africa's policy, and all the big powers, China Africa policy, they all have. We need a document. I think from now, we should begin to push the government to come up with a document of engagement. You cannot be engaging other countries in abstraction. Engagement, international politics is not the spur of the moment. It's strategic planning. Is foresighted planning to look at the future. I think this is where we have to look at. So if we are having meetings with the United States or having engagement with the United, what should be our focus? With China, which area are we going to focus with? With Britain, with Russia, where are we going to focus in? There's nothing wrong with having engagement with all of them, but we have to have a focus, we have to have a strategy, we have to have an aim, a goal, an aspiration that will take us to where we want to be. The whole essence of international politics and international relations is to have access to what you don't have enough or what you don't even have. And so some few years ago, I was also called to come and look at the Nigerian security architecture. They are all there. These architectures, whether it's the roadmap you want to call it, the documents are all there. But the most important thing, we have to follow through through this document to be able to meet our ambition. We are talking about being the 20th biggest economy in the world by specific dates. How do we achieve that? We want to be a hegemon in Africa. How do you achieve that? And like I argue, we always call ourselves a hegemon. We also call ourselves a leader. You don't arrogate yourself what you don't have. It is the people who look at you, the countries that look at you and say, this country is a great country. I've never seen the biggest powers talking about we are a great country. Even the Americans will never tell you they are the number one. Even in the international relations, according to Samuel Huntington, it is better to be number one than to be number two. So how are we striving to be number one? I think we need a proper and auspicious document of engagement that we all rely on. So from one administration to the next administration, they rely on this document for to achieve our purpose, our aim of a great nation. Thank you very much. I don't know if I've answered your question, Mr. Kingsley.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ubi, for that feedback. You threw it back in the direction of those who will implement foreign policy by saying we need to have a roadmap, though the current administration has its foreign policy thrust. But of course, the foreign policy of Nigeria still remains Afrocentrism. Our president is now spreading the tentacles more and more by reaching out to as many as he can reach out to, all with a view to ensuring that Nigeria gets the bigger share of the cake and not just collecting crumbs.
Mr. Shola, you see,
Yes, sir.
over the years, foreign policy doctrines have been from one administration to the other. If you look at from the 60s, 1962, from the speech of Belewa, our prime minister, he was the one that first initiated Afrocentricism or Afrocentric foreign policy, the non-aligned movement, the issue of peace and security. Now, from that point onward, every administration they all have their foreign policy trust. But that also, I want to say out here that has not negated the foundational foreign policy, which you have just mentioned. That is just one doctrine or one trust. And so, you see, every administration has followed through up to 89, where they now introduced the economic diplomacy under the former president, Ibrahim Babangida. Yes, they then follow through to the advent of the Fourth Republic, where we talked about, Obasanjo's administration was all about image building and reconstruction, followed by our late president, may so rest in peace, who talked about diplomacy of consequence or citizens diplomacy. Then Jonathan's administration was the foreign policy of attraction of foreign investment. Then the President Buhari's foreign policy, which I coined as the tripartite foreign policy of President Buhari, which has to do with job creation, economic development, in fight against insecurity and corruption. I think every administration, they have individual doctrinal foreign policy, but they don't neglect the foundational foreign policy that has been through other administration. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor FM Ubi, for that comment on the foreign policy of Nigeria. I'm sure, Mr. Kingsley, you've gotten some more perspectives. But I want to tell you that the foreign ministry under Ambassador Yusuf Tuga says whatever questions Nigerians may have, they can let the ministry know by using its social media handles and posing these interesting posers, and I'm sure you'll be able to get a response. So please, is there any other comment or question that anyone has to give so that we can take it and try and follow through on the program? Our two guest speakers have done justice to the topic. Any other one? Can you indicate by raise of hand in the chat room so that I can ask you to make your contribution, your comments, your observation? And make sure you unmute and make your comments. Okay, so I'll have the privilege of asking some of the fathers in the house to to also share with us. And just when you hear from elders, it emboldens you, encourages you, and when you drink what they call palm wine that is for the elders, you grab more knowledge. So I will respectfully just ask Lieutenant General Adeosun, sir, you can just share one or two things with us from the lectures given by Brigadier General S.K. Usman and Professor F.M. Ubisa. General Adeosun, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shola. Let me first of all appreciate the Peace Building Development Consult for putting this together, and also to join all participants to appreciate the two resource persons who have done real justice to the topics and spheres of their specialties that they handled. I also want to appreciate everyone on the platform, and particularly our chairman, Oga Babadende. Thank you for always being there for us. Having said that, and having listened to the two presentations with all the qualities, I think they covered all what is necessary to cover. The fact remains that we should come back home, like has been mentioned, both from Kukashika and from Professor Ubi. When we go out to sign all these agreements, it shouldn't just end up in signing the agreement and everybody comes back to start working in silos. You can imagine the number of ministries that were directly involved in this agreement. When they come back to Nigeria, do this group also continue meeting together and fine-tuning the implementation of all these agreements as signed? I think we need to look into this. Both from when we talk of defense agreement, it's not only Ministry of Defense. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is there. Ministry of Interior is there. Other MDAs are there. Do they really come together, meet together on the letter and spirit of document or the documents that they come back home with from such agreement from the foreign land? I think we need to start looking at this back home. With that, we can come up with a common front on how to, even to, as time goes on, there could even be need for amendment to what we have signed. If the implementation is going on and is collective, when one is rubbing on the other, either positively or negatively, it could also make room for adjustment. And on the area you alluded to about formerly not having American base in Nigeria and what have you, if we look at the recent development in the Sahel, French had everything. Even America had their base, their minor base, especially drone base in Niger, Agadez, if I can remember. Yes, but eventually what happened? The primary interest of America is what dominates every goddamn thing they do. Sorry if I for using that term. Anything they do, their primary interest dominate. Would it have been good if America had a base long time in Nigeria and they used the base to do the kind of thing that was done to the Venezuelan president using the base in Nigeria? What would that mean for other countries in Africa? What will it interpret to for Nigeria? So because of the policy of non-alignment, which you alluded to earlier, I think that also dominates part of why it is not possible to just zero our interest in one point, concentrate everything on one point. And for benefit of experience, maybe if we had been everywhere like this before, the challenges we had at the beginning of this insurgency that has now turned to a dry-headed monster, threatening every inch of Nigeria and every citizen of Nigeria. Remember, attempts were made through the regular allies to get equipment and ammunition that we weren't having then to prosecute this as early as possible. What happened? We couldn't get. Even Britain did not give us spare parts for so many tanks that were from them when we needed them most. Attempts were made to go through the back door. Because of their superior intelligence, they blocked them. We even wanted to go directly to pick from other places because they are allied to the US. The US blocked them that the equipment they were trying to sell, some elements of American technology are involved. Let me use Brazil, for example. So these are some of the things maybe that our own policymakers, our leaders in government used to put together before they come up with this idea of no, let us also diversify. Let's pick what is reasonable. Let's relate moderately with more than just one person so that we can have alternatives. If some become hostile, some could remain friendly. That would be my own perspective looking at this. By and large, I think this is a very good initiative of the Peace Building Development Consult, and I want it to continue. So thank you so very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, General Adeosun. We sincerely appreciate your insights. Some of the Americans will say, with their slang, "You've been there, I've done that." General has been there. He has also done that. And let me also have the privilege of asking another distinguished person who is with us today. When they are retired, they are not tired. They want to continue to give more to the Nigerian nation to make that progress it deserves. I'm talking about the chairperson of the Peace Development Consult, retired Comptroller General of Immigration, Muhammad Babandede. Sir, you have the floor, sir. We must get a couple of words from you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Generals in the field have spoken, but let those who are let those who are assisting the generals put a little word. I think what we should do, since we are talking specifically about our agreement with the Turkey, and I'm happy it was multi-sectoral. You know, that is what happened, even when it is not mentioned. But now it has been mentioned. Believe me, you have agreement to buy just an aircraft from a developed economy. It will put certain things that are not seen. We know this, but now it is available for us to see in the discussion. So it's good. It is left for us to make good use of it. As many of the resource persons have spoken, and also General Lamidi has spoken, it is not just enough to sign agreement. Make sure it is implemented. And always agreement is dynamic. It can change. But you cannot know it is changing until you monitor it, until you participate in it. So let us encourage by sending a memo, because we can't be talking without reference to the relevant sector. We have done this discussion. We should find a way to communicate to government. We appreciate what they do. It's a good effort they have signed this agreement, but they need to do this from a discussion we had. Let's keep talking to government. If you keep talking, somebody will listen. It doesn't matter that they didn't pick all, but let them at least pick something that all the sectors need to work together. It is only when they work together they can monitor it. And when they monitor it, they will know what is happening and what is not happening. We can make a change. I just give you an example. I was in Turkey some years ago, and I saw sopo, and it looks like Nigerian sopo from my village. And that sopo will be packed again and returned to us. If this agreement says we can have little technology, if we refine soap to a certain level before we send it, it's great for Nigeria. I'm just giving an example. So I wish you well. Thank you for convening this. Let's keep talking, but let's also walk. Okay? Let's walk the talk. Congratulations for organizers, and God bless the chairman for giving me the opportunity.
We appreciate you, retired CGI Muhammad Babandede, for your comments and contributions. Quite deep and incisive, especially for, like he said, like CGI said, you know, they are supporting the generals to protect the territorial integrity of the nation by looking at the borders. CGI, I have just one poser while we await a couple more from those who are listening to us. The issue of Nigeria's border security, sir. Those who are in the intelligence services, those who are in the other uniformed services, they'll do a lot of work if they are able to, know how this country is, the border issues around border integrities, is clearly settled. With benefit of hindsight, sir, the issue of, walling up our borders, how feasible is it, sir? When we say wall, it may not be the block wall, but, fences, steel bars and all of that, not just in the northern fringes, but even all across towards the southern side. How feasible and how positive can that be to ensuring security for a nation such as Nigeria, especially at a time like this when all sorts of people are creeping in from different countries that are having security issues to wreak havoc here, sir?
Yes. First, I will not deliver a new lecture, I assure you for this. And I have to tell you that border issues are not like the way other people are talking about it. Somebody said we should build a wall. Wall is only an aspect of border. That's a physical border. As a professional in border, there are borders abstract and there are physical borders. You know, do you know that Nigerian embassy in New York or the consulate in New York is a border for American citizens? High net people who want to havoc may not be the one carrying the guns alone, but may be the ones who are carrying the intelligence and the strategy. So it is also border management. So I have during my service, we have developed a border management strategy 2019 to 2021. And we did it together with all the actors, the military, the custom officers, all of it is there. But as we said, continuation doesn't work. After we left, it was thrown away. The document is there, available. So what we should do is to manage border together with others. It's not only immigration matters, but also economic matters, cultural matters, security matters, a lot of issues together. I don't want to deliver a lecture, but I would like to assure you it is not all about building a wall. When you build a wall, people will jump into it or will dig under it or will dig through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CGI, for those comments on borders being something that is dynamic. It's not just about walls, but that there's much to be done. And the need for it, you've emphasized the third time, CGI, that continuity is key for progress. And sharing your own experience of the work you did as CGI with other allied agencies, but that kept in the cooler by some others who may have gotten into the position that you held for some interesting number of years. Thank you. So we'll have more comments coming. We still have about 25 minutes to end our session. We're not saying we must end at 12, but if there are things that are being stimulated in our minds as we have these conversations and resource persons sharing with us, please, we would like to have them so that we can talk about them, we can get perspectives to them. Then we close this month's session of the PCDF, or is it PDCC now? That is Foundation or Consult, any of them, but it's about peace building and development. I want to have the privilege as someone who is very, I know in the security services and even in the foreign service, it's not something that we push gender. It's about competence and capability. But I want to ask, I'm going to look for one or two names here and just call them so that we can hear their voices and their own thoughts as well. Madam Faith, please, if you are there and you're hearing me, let's have a perspective from you, ma'am. Yes. Yes, Madam Faith. Yes, and also yes, Madam Faith. If you want, just say something, man, so that we can have it in our records that at least at this moment now, I know one of the persons who succeeded CGI Babandede is lady, Madam Kemi Nandap. So let's see whether we can have another, somebody, another Kemi Nandap give us a comment, so to say. So Faith, if you're there, ma, let's have a word from you. Okay, so in the absence of that, no comments from there, I would like to check. I just went through the chat box. I've been seeing a couple of comments here. Somebody says it's a good paper, no doubt, but would it be adopted? Would it be adopted so that we can have it and be able to watch it again? I'm trying to paraphrase. So that would it be adopted and implemented, or will it end here where we have had the discussion? Our elders have said it should go beyond that. Another comment which has come up is telling us that, look, this is very, very lovely, and that we should keep up the good work in bringing these discussions to others. The lecture notes, I'm sure the organizers will do the needful by getting it across to us. They will put it up here. So it's on that note, we're about wrapping up now. I would like to thank, on behalf of the organizers, our resource persons, General S.K. Usman, who had to leave to join up with another very important meeting after sharing with us, and also Professor F.M. Ubi, who also gave us some deep perspectives as well in his own paper. Both papers, the organizers have assured us, will be made available to us. General SK has dropped his with the organizers. I'm sure Professor Ubi will also drop his as well. You'll be able to get it, through the means of communication in which they reach out to you to be part of this. I would like to thank the executive director of the Peace Building Development Consult, also Foundation, Mr. Kayode Bolaji, for putting this together with his team. I'd like to thank the elders who joined us. Gerard Doshu, we salute you, sir. CGI Babandede, we also salute you. Other very important dignitaries who joined us, they've listened, they didn't make comments, and they've also digested. We will also appreciate you sincerely for joining us on a day like this to look at Nigeria-Turkey partnership and what Nigeria can gain, because like I emphasized, what size of the cake will we be taking? Will the cake be baked and we'll just take crumbs? That's not how nations operate. Best interest, first interest is what we must also look at. A relationship that works, a partnership that will work for both sides. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to sincerely appreciate us for spending time. We started at 10 on the dot, and it's about 19 minutes to 11. We're closing our session now. But I'll yield the floor to Mr. Kayode Bolaji to just give us the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shola Jaisimi, for a job well done. I know if we are to put our hands together, you won't see all our ends, but we rejoice. You've done a very good job in moderating and keeping us all together in the last 1.5 hours. We want to thank everybody that have joined us. Thank you to our chairman and also our elder for joining us. All our stakeholders, I think this is the first time we had over almost 40 participants, and I think it can only get better. The first time we started this, we had about 20 participants. So this is really good. And I think it's to show that it's important we engage current issues happening both locally and globally. We at the Secretariat here, we will look for ways to make sure this goes international so that voices will be heard and policymakers will also learn from the suggestions here. On behalf of the Peace Building Development Consult, I don't know, with the kind permission of the chairman, I don't know if the chairman has a final word to give. CGI, sir. Okay, I'm thinking, General, sir, I don't know if you have any final word to give before I close the event. General Dioshin, sir.
All right, thank you very much. My own is just to join you to appreciate everybody for their contributions, and for those who listen in too. It has been a very worthwhile experience, and for you putting this together, we appreciate and thank you and encourage you to do more. God bless.
Thank you, General. Thank you so much. I know we also have a PAMSEC joining us from one ministry. We notice you and we appreciate you for listening. On behalf of the Peace Building Development Consult and the Peace Building Development Foundation, we thank you so much. Please let us know if there are issues that you want us to discuss. This platform is for everyone, it's for Nigeria, it's to keep Nigeria together and to make sure we develop, if not during our time, at least prepare a better ground for our children to take it further. So thank you and have a beautiful week. Bye for now.